I woke up to the smell of Laura making breakfast, the sunlight streaming through our bedroom window. Today was my 35th birthday, and I felt a mix of excitement and unease. The past few months had been strange. Something about the way Laura and my brother Jake whispered when they thought I was not around. The way they stopped talking when I entered a room. That weird feeling in my gut had been growing stronger by the day. I tried pushing it away, telling myself I was imagining things. Before I tell you about the moment I discovered the heartbreaking truth that would change my life forever, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe so you do not miss the next part of this story. Trust me, you will want to see how karma eventually comes for those who betray the ones they claim to love. My name is Dallas, a 35-year-old software engineer living in Seattle. I had built what I thought was a great life. A beautiful home overlooking Puget Sound. A successful career at a tech company where I had recently been promoted to senior engineer. And most importantly, a marriage I believed was rock solid. Laura and I met during our sophomore year at the University of Washington. I was the awkward computer science major who somehow caught the eye of the most beautiful business student on campus. Our relationship progressed naturally after graduation. We moved in together, adopted a golden retriever named Cooper, and after 3 years of dating, I proposed during a sunset dinner on the beach in Bali. The memory of her tearful yes still played in my mind sometimes. We had been married for 8 years. 8 years of building a life together, hosting dinner parties for friends, planning vacations, and talking about starting a family. Everything seemed perfect, or at least that is what I wanted to believe. My family had always been close-knit. My parents, William and Patricia, lived just outside the city in the house where I grew up. My younger brother, Jake, 3 years my junior, had followed me to Seattle after finishing his architecture degree. I had always looked out for him, even helped him land his first job at a prestigious firm through one of my connections. Jake and Laura had always gotten along well, but there was nothing particularly special about their relationship. At least not initially. Family gatherings were a weekly tradition. Sunday dinners at my parents' house, holiday celebrations, birthday parties. These events were non-negotiable in the Anderson family calendar. I used to love those gatherings before everything changed. The first signs were subtle. Laura started coming home later from work, always with a reasonable explanation. Her appearance changed slightly. More makeup, new clothes, more attention to her hair. Her phone became an extension of her hand, but I could never see who she was texting because she had suddenly added a passcode. When I asked about it, she laughed it off, saying she was protecting client information. Around the same time, Jake began stopping by our house more frequently, often when I was working late or traveling for business. Nothing suspicious about a brother visiting, right? But Cooper, who normally greeted everyone with enthusiastic barking, seemed to recognize these visits as routine. One evening, I came home early from a business trip, hoping to surprise Laura. As I pulled into our driveway, I spotted Jake leaving our house. He seemed startled to see me fumbling through an explanation about dropping off some architectural magazines Laura had asked for. Something in his expression did not sit right with me, but I brushed it off. Later that night, Laura received a call during dinner. She glanced at her phone, excused herself quickly, and spoke in hushed tones in our bedroom. When she returned, I asked who it was. She smiled too brightly. Just work stuff. Nothing important. But I had seen the name on her screen. It was Jake. The next strange incident happened at my parents' house. Jake and Laura were talking in the kitchen when I walked in. They immediately stopped, exchanging a look I could not quite decipher. My mother, who had been standing nearby, gave me a strange glance before busying herself with the dinner preparations. As we were leaving, my mother pulled Laura aside for what looked like an intense conversation. When I asked Laura about it on the drive home, she said Mom was just sharing a recipe, but something in her voice sounded off. A week later, Patricia made an odd comment while we were having coffee together. She said, "Sometimes marriages require sacrifice, Dallas. Not everything is black and white." When I asked what she meant, she waved her hand dismissively and changed the subject. My father began acting strangely, too. Whenever I mentioned that Laura seemed distant, or that Jake was behaving differently around me, he would clear his throat and steer the conversation towards sports or politics. Looking back, these were all warning signs I chose to ignore. The first concrete evidence came when I found a hotel receipt in Laura's purse while looking for car keys. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel, downtown Seattle, a Tuesday afternoon when she should have been at work. When confronted, she claimed it was for a business lunch, but the room charge was clearly marked on the bill. My suspicions grew when I checked her phone while she was showering. A text from an unsaved number read, "Miss you. Cannot wait until tomorrow." When she emerged from the bathroom, I casually asked if she had plans the next day. "Just meetings at the office," she said, not meeting my eyes. I did something I never thought I would do. I enabled location sharing on our phones, claiming it would be helpful in case of emergencies. The real reason was much darker. Over the next 2 weeks, I noticed a pattern. 3 times her location showed her at Jake's apartment complex during her lunch break. When asked, she said she was helping him decorate his new place, claiming she wanted it to be a surprise for the family. That explanation might have worked once, but 3 times, and why the secrecy? The doubt was eating me alive, but I still needed more proof before making accusations that could tear apart my marriage and my family. I installed security cameras in our home, telling Laura they were for protection after a break-in down the street. The real purpose was revealed 2 days later when I was on an overnight business trip. The footage showed Jake entering our house at 8 p.m., carrying wine and takeout. He did not leave until 6 a.m. the next morning. Still, I needed to be absolutely certain. I placed a small recording device in our living room. That weekend, I told Laura I was going golfing with colleagues. Instead, I parked down the street and monitored the situation. Sure enough, Jake arrived less than an hour after I left. The recording captured their conversation. They talked about some plan, and when they would tell me, I heard Jake say, "He deserves to know Laura. We cannot keep doing this." And Laura replied, "Just a little longer. The timing needs to be right." My world collapsed around me. The 2 people I trusted most were betraying me behind my back. But the real shock came when I realized the extent of the deception. One afternoon, I overheard a phone conversation between Laura and my mother. I had come home quietly through the garage entrance, and Laura had not heard me. She was in our bedroom door, partially open. "I just need a little more time, Patricia," she was saying. "Dallas suspects something, but he has not put it all together yet. I know this is hard on everyone." My mother replied loudly enough for me to hear through the speakerphone, "Just be patient, dear. It will all work out. You and Jake belong together, anyone can see that. Dallas will understand eventually." I froze outside the door, feeling physically ill. My own mother knew about the affair and was supporting it. I slipped out of the house before Laura realized I was there, driving aimlessly for hours, trying to process what I had heard. The final confirmation came when I hired a private investigator. It felt extreme, but I needed evidence no one could deny. 3 days later, I received an envelope containing photos of Jake and Laura kissing in his car, holding hands at a restaurant outside the city, and entering a hotel together. The images burned into my brain, causing a pain I had never experienced before. But the true depth of the betrayal was still unfolding. My cousin Sam called me for drinks one evening. After a few beers, he looked at me with pity and confessed that he knew about Jake and Laura. In fact, the entire family knew. They had discussed it at a gathering I had missed while on a business trip. My parents had asked everyone to keep quiet, saying I would find out when the time was right. I felt physically ill. My entire support system, the people I had trusted implicitly, had conspired against me. The magnitude of the deception was almost incomprehensible. The final blow came when I discovered that my father had given Jake a substantial amount of money 3 months earlier. I found this out by accessing my parents' shared calendar on our family account, seeing an appointment with their financial advisor noted as Jake House Money Transfer. The house Jake had supposedly bought for himself was actually meant for him and Laura, after they would eventually tell me the truth. I spent nights awake, staring at the ceiling, lying next to a woman who had completely betrayed me. I contemplated confrontation, running away, even forgiveness. But the wound was too deep, the conspiracy too vast. I felt utterly alone, surrounded by people who had chosen to protect a betrayal rather than protect me from pain. The only person I could turn to was my college friend Matthew, who lived in Boston. When I called and told him everything, his anger on my behalf was validating. For weeks, he was my lifeline, the only person who seemed to care about my feelings in this nightmare. After confirming the full extent of the betrayal, something changed inside me. The shock and pain crystallized into determination. If my family and wife had conspired against me, I would respond with a plan of my own. First, I consulted a divorce attorney, one of the best in Seattle. I laid out everything I knew, including the evidence from the private investigator. The lawyer was confident we had a strong case, especially given the length and nature of the deception. I signed the divorce papers but kept them in a sealed envelope, waiting for the right moment. Next, I secured my finances. I transferred my portion of our joint savings into a private account, documented all major assets, and updated the beneficiaries on my insurance policies and retirement accounts, removing Laura completely. I did everything legally and transparently, keeping detailed records of all transactions. I found a new apartment in Boston, signing a 1-year lease. Matthew helped me remotely, sending photos and videos of potential places. I chose a modern 1-bedroom with a view of the harbor, a fresh start far from the web of lies in Seattle. At work, I approached my boss about transferring to our Boston office. I cited personal reasons and leveraged my recent successful projects. My value to the company made the request easy to accommodate, and everything was arranged quickly and quietly. The most cathartic part was writing 3 letters. One for Laura, one for my parents, and one for Jake. I poured every ounce of pain, every moment of betrayal onto those pages, making sure they understood exactly what they had done to me. These were not angry rants, but clear, articulate expressions of how their actions had shattered my trust and changed my view of them forever. With all preparations complete, I waited for the perfect moment. My 35th birthday party. The event they had all been planning at my parents' house, where the entire extended family would be present. The day arrived, and I drove to my childhood home with a strange sense of calm. Inside my jacket pocket were 3 envelopes, each containing documents that would change everything. The party seemed normal on the surface. Decorations hung from the ceiling. A large cake sat on the dining table, and gifts were piled on a side table. Family members greeted me with hugs and birthday wishes, none of them knowing what was about to unfold. Laura stayed close to Jake throughout the evening. I noticed their subtle touches, the way their eyes met across the room. My mother kept bringing up Jake's recent promotion at work, comparing it favorably to my own career. My father repeatedly mentioned how Jake had always been the sensitive one, how he understood people in ways I never could. After dinner, everyone gathered in the living room for toasts and cake. My Uncle John raised his glass, saying something about another year of wisdom for me. My cousin Amanda mentioned what a perfect couple Laura and I had always been, causing several uncomfortable glances around the room. When the toasts concluded, I stood up. The room quieted, expecting a typical thank you speech. Instead, I looked directly at Laura, then at Jake, then at my parents. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," I said, my voice steady. "Before we continue celebrating, I think we should acknowledge what has been happening these past few months. My wife Laura and my brother Jake have been having an affair, and every single person in my family knew about it and helped them hide it from me." The room fell silent. Laura's face drained of color. Jake stared at the floor. My parents exchanged panicked glances. "Is anyone going to deny it?" I asked, looking around the room. The silence was broken by my father. "Now, Dallas," he began, his tone patronizing. "Relationships are complicated. Sometimes feelings develop that we do not expect." My mother stepped forward, touching my arm. "We were going to tell you soon, honey. We just wanted to wait for the right time." Jake and Laura, They have something special. Sometimes love just happens, and we cannot control it. I looked at her incredulously. So, you all decided that my marriage, my trust, my feelings were less important than their affair, Jake finally spoke up. We did not plan this, Dallas. It just happened. We have been trying to find a way to tell you, without hurting you. Laura nodded tearfully. We never meant to cause you pain. But Jake and we realized we are soulmates. We have been fighting it for so long. My mother tightened her grip on my arm. Dallas, you need to be mature about this and just accept it. They are soulmates. Anyone can see that. My father nodded in agreement. Do not be selfish, son. They are happy together. Isn't that what matters in the end? I looked at my family, these strangers wearing familiar faces, and something inside me broke free. A strange calm washed over me. You know what? You are right, I said, smiling slightly. I should be happy for them. If they are soulmates, who am I to stand in the way? Relief visibly washed over their faces. My mother actually smiled, patting my shoulder approvingly. I stood up, reaching into my jacket. Since we are all being honest now, I have something for each of you. I handed an envelope to Laura, another to my parents, and the third to Jake. Then I walked toward the door. Where are you going? Laura called after me, the envelope still unopened in her hands. I think I need some air, I replied calmly. Go ahead and open your gifts. As I reached the front door, I heard the sound of paper tearing, followed by a gasp from my mother. Then Laura screamed my name. I kept walking, getting into my car. As Laura ran out of the house, the contents of her envelope clutched in her hand. The divorce papers, I knew, along with photos from the private investigator, bank statements showing the transferred funds, and a copy of my new lease in Boston. My parents' envelope contained my letter to them, along with evidence of their complicity and a formal statement that I would no longer consider myself their son. And Jake. His envelope held a notice of intent to sue for alienation of affection, copies of his emails I had obtained by hacking his poorly protected account, and my letter explaining exactly how I felt about his betrayal. As I drove away, I could see Laura in my rearview mirror, standing in the street, screaming and begging me to come back. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of control returning. I had lost my family and my wife, but I had reclaimed my dignity. My new life in Boston began the following Monday. The company had arranged temporary housing until my apartment was ready and my few personal possessions were being shipped. I had left almost everything behind, wanting a completely fresh start. The Boston office welcomed me warmly. New colleagues invited me to lunch, showed me around the city, and included me in their social gatherings. I told them I was recently divorced, but spared them the dramatic details. Some things are too painful to share with casual acquaintances. My apartment became my sanctuary. Minimalist furniture, large windows overlooking the harbor, no photos or mementos from my previous life. I adopted a cat from a local shelter, a one-eyed orange tabby that the shelter had trouble placing. I named him Phoenix, appropriate for both of us starting new lives. Meanwhile, the fallout back in Seattle was significant. The divorce was finalized after 3 months, with the judge ruling heavily in my favor given the evidence of infidelity. I received 70% of our assets, including our house, which I promptly sold. Jake faced unexpected consequences when his firm discovered the scandal. Office politics can be merciless, and sleeping with your brother's wife did not reflect well on his character. He was passed over for a major project he had been counting on, eventually leading to his resignation. My parents faced social repercussions as well. Their friends, even those who had attended my birthday party, were shocked by their role in the deception. Several longtime friendships ended, and they were quietly excluded from community events. The family reputation, which my mother had always guarded so carefully, was tarnished. As for Laura and Jake, they stayed together, moving into a smaller apartment after financial realities hit. According to Matthew, who still had connections in Seattle, their relationship was strained by the consequences of their actions. The fantasy of their romance had collided with the harsh reality of what they had destroyed to be together. I found unexpected solace in therapy. My psychologist helped me work through the complex grief of losing not just my wife but my entire family support system at once. We addressed the anger, the betrayal, and eventually the path forward. Joining a support group for people who had experienced betrayal in their relationships was another crucial step. Hearing others' stories helped me realize I was not alone, that surviving such a profound betrayal was possible, even common. Some of those group members became close friends, united by our shared understanding of that particular type of pain. Matthew visited often, sometimes bringing his wife and kids. His unwavering support during my darkest moments had strengthened our friendship beyond measure. During one visit, he convinced me to join a local hiking group, reigniting my long-forgotten passion for outdoor activities. I rediscovered other old interests too. Playing guitar, which I had abandoned years ago, became a nightly ritual. I took cooking classes, learning to prepare meals for one, without feeling sorry for myself. I volunteered at a youth coding program on weekends, finding purpose in mentoring teenagers interested in technology. 6 months after moving to Boston, I received a letter from my mother. She begged for forgiveness, claiming they had only wanted to spare me pain by finding the right time to tell me. I read the letter once, then filed it away without responding. Some betrayals cut too deep for simple forgiveness. Laura called on what would have been our 9th anniversary. I let it go to voicemail, listening to her tearful apology later with emotional detachment. She spoke of regrets and mistakes, claiming she missed the life we had built. I deleted the message without calling back. That chapter of my life was closed. The most important lesson I learned was the value of self-respect and personal boundaries. I had allowed my family to dictate my sense of worth for too long. Their betrayal, while devastating, had freed me from unhealthy patterns and expectations I had never questioned. I came to understand that real family are the people who support you unconditionally, who consider your feelings as valuable as their own. By that definition, my biological family had never truly been family at all. Perhaps most surprisingly, I discovered that sometimes the greatest losses open doors to unexpected possibilities. My new life was not what I had planned, but it was authentic and entirely my own. The pain had forged something stronger in me, a resilience I never knew I possessed. One evening, about a year after moving to Boston, I attended a cooking class focused on Italian cuisine. As we paired up for a pasta-making exercise, I was matched with a woman named Natalie. She had an easy laugh and flour smudged on her cheek. When our hands accidentally touched while kneading dough, I felt a flicker of something I had not experienced in a long time. Not attraction exactly, but possibility. The familiar fear surfaced immediately. Could I ever trust someone again? Would every relationship be shadowed by memories of betrayal? But alongside the fear was something new, a quiet confidence that whatever happened, I would be okay. I had survived the worst already. As I sit on my apartment balcony watching the sunset over Boston Harbor, I reflect on how completely my life has changed in a year. The pain has not disappeared entirely, but it has transformed into something manageable, even valuable. Like a broken bone that heals stronger at the fracture point, I have become more resilient where I was once shattered. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led you to a better place in life? Comment below with your story of overcoming betrayal and finding strength. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible after even the most painful betrayals. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes the end of what you thought was your whole world can actually be the beginning of something better.